Take a trip with us to Nilbog. Just promise not to drink the goo.
Oh my God!
If you get sucked into the Matrix, we will send a phone for you.
Do you believe in fate?
But every movie has a plot hole, and every hole gets filled somehow with whiskey, wine, or blue milk. Just don't cut me off right now. We're the Plotaholics, a breakfast club of two. We're the Plotaholics, ripping plots apart for you.
Yeah, well, that's just like your opinion, man.
All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Plotaholics Podcast. I am Shane Wilson, and I'm a Plotaholic.
And I'm Brian Tan, and I'm a Plotaholic.
Brian,
oh, wait, I totally flubbed that. I forgot to go, hi, Shane.
Yeah, that's okay, man. It's okay.
I'm excited.
I'm excited, too. It's a big night. It is the final episode of the Summer of Cusack. Our
very first themed block of shows, and this has been an amazing success.
Yeah, I think so. It's made both of us watch movies that we normally wouldn't have, and it also gave us a chance to return to old favorites. And so it's been good, man. So I am 0 days sober, Brian, because today I watched the 1989 John Cusack classic.
Yes.
Masterpiece.
And there is no asterisk. There is no question mark. This is a classic. And before we get deeper into this,
yeah,
just to update our listeners on the Summer of Cusack, June 17th, we started out with High Fidelity, an amazing starting off point.
Yeah.
With the amazing John Cusack, obviously. June 1st, we went to One Crazy Summer, and then, which was an interesting romp into the summer comedy genre.
Uh-huh.
And then, July 14th, we went to our highest grossing episode, our highest rated and our most listened to episode to date.
Yeah.
Gross Point Blank.
And it still picks up a listen every now and then.
Yeah, it does. Gross Point Blank is now our most listened to episode. And then, back on July 28th, we came out with Hot Tub Time Machine.
Yeah.
And, what's funny, and the one thing that I'm noticing is that One Crazy Summer and Hot Tub Time Machine, they kind of, that they came in relatively respectable, but High Fidelity and Gross Point Blank are the ones that have really made the Summer of Cusack a rousing success.
Yeah, and I believe Say Anything will echo in that as well.
Absolutely.
Before we get into Say Anything, Brian, are there now that we've watched 5 John Cusack films in pretty rapid succession, is there anything that stands out to you about John Cusack movies as a whole that maybe hadn't occurred to you before?
I think part of it, one thing that never occurred to me before until we started this, is that Jeremy Piven is in practically every John Cusack film.
Yeah, that struck me while I was watching Say Anything, for sure.
Mm-hmm. And Big Sister Joan is pretty much in almost every, except for a few minor exceptions. Big Sister Joan is always involved.
Yep, she's somewhere in there.
But John Cusack is the straight guy. He's the mellow guy. He's
the Jason Bateman.
He truly is. I mean, Jason Bateman got a little bit, as Jason Bateman got older, that's when he started to get really, shall we say, rambunctious as far as his cameo in Dodgeball.
Right.
Which we have to do sometime.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
typically when Jason Bateman plays a lead, he plays the straight man.
He really does, because even in Arrested Development, he is like.
And that's sort of what I was thinking of, for sure.
Right. And John Cusack, no matter what he's playing, even if some of his characters are more manic, like, say, Martin Blank,
Yeah.
he is still very much a straight man.
He's sort of the leveling force in these movies, and we've talked almost in every episode about how he does really well with a great ensemble, and part of that is the fact that he's such a good straight man, and you can surround him with just a myriad of just craziness.
Absolutely, and that especially happens in Say Anything, and Say Anything, it really canceled a lot of misconceptions that I have about John Cusack. Because now I might be jumping ahead a little bit. However, in this film, Lloyd Dobler, played by John Cusack,
right?
He's an aspiring kickboxer.
Yeah, Brian, did you know that kickboxing is the sport of the future?
It is the sport of the future. Well, and you know what? He wasn't wrong, because kickboxing is a very, very big part of mixed martial arts, MMA.
Yeah, absolutely.
So he was absolutely
right.
And you know what? He was amazing. He was more believable, kind of, as a tough guy in Say Anything than he was in Grosse Point Blank, except when the roundhouse kick came.
Well, right. I think that he wasn't so much a tough guy in Say Anything as much as he was just in good shape. And
he really was. You could tell with his strikes that he really trained.
Yeah. So let's see, for those who are uninitiated, what's wrong with you? But a quick rundown here of the plot for Say Anything, courtesy of our friends over at Wikipedia.
Love Wikipedia.
Noble underachiever Lloyd Dobler falls for valedictorian Diane Court at their high school graduation ceremony. Lloyd lives with his sister Constance, a single mother, and has no plans for his future. Diane comes from a sheltered academic upbringing and lives with her doting divorced father, Jim, who owns the retirement home where she works. She is due to take up a fellowship in England at the end of the summer. And that's sort of where we start.
And you know what? Shout out and rest in peace to the amazing John Mahoney.
Yep.
Who plays Jim. That would be Diane's father.
Yeah.
And Jim Mahoney, he died last February of 2018. And he is most well known at this point for playing Martin Crane in the American sitcom Frasier.
Oh,
that was a spinoff of Cheers.
That's right.
That was on NBC from 1993 to 2004.
Yeah.
And that's how now, but he also did a quick guest spot on Cheers as well.
Yeah, he came in on Cheers somewhere around
season 4 or 5.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Because Woody was there, because Woody was on the cast at this point, and I believe that his character was a bad jingle writer. All of his jingles, they had different lyrics, but they were in the melody of Camptown Races, I think it was.
Right.
But John Mahoney is such an amazing actor, and he does
a nice job in this.
He really does. And it was weird to me seeing him with not gray hair.
Yeah.
But I'm sorry, go ahead.
The young lady that plays Diane, do we say her name Ione?
Ione Skye.
Yeah, Ione Skye. Mm-hmm. How do you feel about her? I feel like she's very serviceable in this role, but I also just kind of think Diane's kind of boring.
Diane is a very, very boring character, very, very plain. And she actually starts to really develop as a character toward the end of the movie.
Right.
And but I think that Ione Skye, who is also the younger sister of Donovan Leitch.
I thought you were going to say.
No, Donovan Leitch.
I thought you were going to say Donovan McNabb, and I was like, I don't think that's true.
Yeah. Well, actually, Shane.
I suppose she could be.
She's the younger sister of British actor Donovan Leitch. Sorry.
Gotcha.
And he is known primarily, he's in a neo-glam band called Nancy Boy. But he is most well known for his role as Paul Taylor in the 1988 remake of The Blob.
Wow.
Yeah.
There's that deep knowledge coming at you again.
Yeah, I know, right?
Ryan, before we get into the story here, I want to shout out also our director here, Cameron Crowe, in his directorial debut.
Oh, yeah, man. Cameron Crowe is amazing. I love most every movie he's done. I really do. He's such a great writer and director. So many of his films have so much heart. And
he's one of those in some ways I would compare him to, not in content but in process probably, to Tarantino. He's much more patient.
He really is.
He puts out, like, if you look at his filmography, you've got 2-4, like an average of like 3 to 4 years between all of his films.
Absolutely. He takes his time. He writes his stuff that he writes. He's the writer of most everything he's done. He was the writer of Fast Times at Ridgemont High. He wrote Say Anything. That was 7 years later. He did The Wildlife in between that. 3 years later, he wrote, produced, and directed Singles. 4 years, which is one of the most underappreciated.
Well, and then you get into, like, he had a run for a little while.
Yeah. Well, he only did 2 movies in the 90s, Singles and Jerry Maguire.
Right.
He didn't have to do anything else between those.
Right.
Especially with Jerry. And then then Almost Famous, Vanilla Sky, Elizabethtown. I mean, the guy.
We Bought a Zoo. I mean, he's done good work.
He really has, and he's, kudos to Cameron Crowe, because this movie, even with it being his directorial debut, this is where you get that Cameron Crowe.
I would the ethos, right? The aesthetic.
Yeah, because I mean, between this and his next film, Singles, there we are in Seattle,
right,
where Cameron Crowe, a lot of his stuff seems to take place, and just so well done. And I can't sing the praises of this movie enough. And even the boringness of the Diane character, it just fits.
Yeah, it works. Because whenever the movie opens, we have this scene that establishes Lloyd's friendship with his best female friend, Corey. Mm-hmm. And Corey, to me, is maybe my favorite character in the whole thing.
She's the MVP of this film.
I think so.
She's like she's his moral compass. Yeah. Not like he even needed one, because Lloyd, unlike many of the other characters that John Cusack has played, and even Martin Blank, or even in High Fidelity, his character Rob Gordon, he's definitely the anti-Rob Gordon. Lloyd is just a good guy.
We talked a little bit about that off air, about how different he is from Rob Gordon, and I would posit this. Doesn't it feel like Lloyd is Rob Gordon in high school before he got hurt all those times?
You know what? I think that Lloyd is who I think I can see that. Lloyd is who Rob Gordon was before he got hurt.
Right. And so, like, the reason that I like High Fidelity so much is that you see the entire evolution of a man, right?
Right.
And through all of that. And then in this film, you get just the snapshot, just the high school related, or the post-high school summer relationship,
Right.
And this movie, you talked about how you avoided it when you were younger because it was like a rom-com or whatever, but there's a lot more going on here.
And Brian, really is.
I swear to you, I watched this movie in the last calendar year, and watching it today, I was like, have I ever even seen this?
And what's crazy is that I was kicking myself. I looked right at Sharon as this movie ended, and it's like, wow, I did myself a disservice. I can't even call myself a cinemaphile.
This movie is, well, of course, everybody knows the, like, iconic boombox scene
with Peter Gabriel's
Peter
In Your Eyes.
Gabriel, yeah.
But I don't think a lot of people truly get the significance.
Right. I don't think a lot of people get the significance, and I also don't know that, like, what struck me watching it again is that movie is still like 20 to 25 minutes from the end. Like, there's still a lot to be resolved after that scene, whereas typically when that scene is parodied in a climax moment where...
Yeah, that's the end. It's like that.
Yeah.
And that's what I was so happy about, is that there's still so much to be done. And even still, that scene, it didn't do anything, because it was like you're expecting her to come running to him and throw her arms around, and it didn't happen. So
and
he was really standing there for the entire playing of that song, holding it over his head. And
that's really what sells this movie for me is that Cameron Crowe like really sort of leaned into the fact that Diane is going through this family drama that we'll talk about in a minute that does not allow her the liberty to patch things up with him.
And you can't even be mad at her.
No.
Because this is a girl whose entire world is crumbling.
And what's crazy is that there's like the conflict at the center of Say Anything is so unlike most other romantic comedies. Because there's not this, like, you know, usually in a romantic comedy you have boy meets girl and then one of them like fucks up somehow and they fall apart and then the other one tries to make it up, right? But in this film there are external forces that force them away from each other.
Right. But it's not like you're I'm sorry, go ahead, finish your point.
I was gonna say, like, it feels like in the world of the film a pretty natural separation. He doesn't get it because he's not privy to all the knowledge. And that's frustrating to him, but you can totally understand where she's coming from.
Right. And the thing is, even though her father doesn't really like the pairing, he isn't the antagonist that breaks them apart. I mean, he is, but not in the way you would think. That's typical in romantic comedy. He's not doing that whole, I threaten you and I scream it. They have an amazing relationship, Diane and Jim do. And
there, go ahead.
And they have such an amazing relationship, and it just continues on. And he is a loving and caring father that is actually the kind of parent that was an anomaly back then, an understanding parent that, you know, because I mean, how many times in films and in television, minus say Full House or, you know, shows of that nature, where the kid could actually come to her parent and just talk to them freely.
Well, and this film capitalizes on that to a much larger degree because of the things that she feels free talking to him about.
And we'll get into that because there's no, like, honestly, if I had a daughter and she came to me with that, I would not have handled it that chill. That's another reason why John Mahoney is the man.
Right.
Was the man, because I would have just been like, okay.
Yeah, well, let's take things to the top here.
Yeah.
And see what we can do. I thought we sort of know how, like, the major beats of this thing, but I thought it might be easier for us to really dig into the Lloyd Diane relationship if we tackled these minor characters first.
Right. Well, we meet Lloyd hanging out with Corey, and the name of their other friend escapes me.
Yeah, there are two other girls there.
Rebecca and not Mimi. I can't remember the other one's name. But what's amazing though is, you know, Pamela Adlon, who plays Rebecca. You know, you guys will know her. She voiced Bobby Hill in King of the Hill. She also played Spinelli in Recess. And she
also played Cokie Smurf on Californication.
And you know who else she was?
Who else was she?
She also played one of Steve Martin's sergeants in Sergeant Bilko.
Nice.
Yeah, good. A very underappreciated comedy.
Yeah, but these three girls end up, you know, I was sort of fascinated with them because they operated sort of outside of the story, but they were always there.
Right, and always important, because in another trope that this movie sort of gives the middle finger to. His best friends are females.
Yeah.
And not many guys had the female friends like that.
That's right. And not only that, but it also defies the trope that, like, she's been in front of you this whole time, right? Like,
right.
That idea that, okay, he's hanging out with Corey all this time, and they're going to fall in love, and they're not even going to realize it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that is not even a thing. This thing is
not
completely
even close.
Platonic.
Absolutely. And that is so great. I mean, this movie is so anti the standard of the 80s films, and that's what makes it so great.
Absolutely.
So
yeah,
all right,
so
he's hanging out with Corey and one of their other friend, and as soon as I figure out her name, it's going to hit me like a ton of bricks. But you also find out that Lloyd is kind of displaced because his parents are career military. Mm-hmm. So he lives with his older sister, played by the amazing John Cusack, his older sister. Yeah. He lives with his older sister, Constance, who's a single mother, with whose husband has just left her.
I want to talk about her kid, man, because this kid, J-Man, to me, is on the list of MVP candidates, even if he doesn't win.
What's funny is that his interactions with Lloyd, it's like another reason why you fall in love with Lloyd as a character.
Yeah, there are a couple of devices that they use in order to get you on board with Lloyd, even though at first I wasn't so sure that he was going to be the good guy that the synopsis promises, because he was kind of being a dick to his sister at first.
He really was. Like, he's like, remember when you used to be fun?
Yeah, and that scene is almost way out of character for everything else that we get from him.
Right. But even still, as you think about it, it's like, but then you think about it and it's like, that's probably the dynamic that him and his sister have.
Right.
And
you do talk to family differently than you do other people.
Right. And it's like, it can't be easy because he's still a teenage boy.
Yeah.
He's still a kid, and his parents aren't there for his high school graduation. And he has no clue what he wants to do with his life. And then you figure, I mean, we've both been through it. Oh, well, you're 18 now. Any thoughts about your future?
Right.
Who the hell knows what they want to do at 18?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't.
Yeah, I had no clue. I didn't know I wanted to be a writer until I was in my late 20s.
Yeah.
I didn't know I was a writer until my late 20s.
Right.
I didn't know that I could be a film reviewer until I was 39.
Yeah. Yeah, there you go, right? We're learning things about ourselves all the time. Exactly. And so you get Corey, who is this kind of depressed, sort of like goth chick, and not goth in a traditional sort of sense.
She's more like
she's a rock chick, I guess.
She's a rock chick, but she's had a suicide attempt because her boyfriend cheated on her.
Right, Joe.
Even at the end of her graduation, her mother is telling her, stay away from Joe.
Yeah. And she's written, we find out at the party, she's written 63 songs this year, and they're all about Joe.
About him.
And she's going to play all of them at the graduation party.
Yeah. And it's amazing because it almost screams teenage melodrama. But it works. It's so funny. It works.
Yeah, what's wild about that party, and I know it feels like we're jumping around here, and maybe we are, but what was so wild about that party, this movie felt like it was two different movies to me.
It did.
Because when you're at the party, it feels almost like the 80s version of Can't Hardly Wait.
It really does. It really does. That is a great observation by you.
And then when you get to the second half, then you get into the actual sort of like meat and potatoes of the story, and it's completely different.
But what's cool, though, is that the Can't Hardly Wait part of this movie, we might as well call that first act Can't Hardly Wait, is that it does an amazing job of establishing who our leads are. Because for Lloyd, he's telling Corey and Rebecca how much he's in love with Diane Court, and he's been obsessed with her since they sat near each other at the mall once. Yeah. Meanwhile, Diane, when he finally musters up the courage after their graduation, when we first meet Diane, her father's driving her to graduation.
Yeah.
She's practicing her speech, And her dad is just like hanging on her every word. You find out how doting and committed of a parent he is.
Yeah, and they immediately establish this contrast between her upbringing and life and his.
Absolutely.
Because he's driving himself to graduation.
Right. His parents he has nobody there for him.
Yeah.
Except his friends.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, she has her dad. And he's like sitting there at graduation. He's barely graduated. She's the valedictorian.
Yeah.
And
another John Cusack movie where at graduation people get cars.
Yeah, yes. But she was the only one.
Yeah, she was the only one this time.
He didn't get
the late 80s, right? The late 80s and the early 80s were different times.
Yeah, absolutely. It's amazing how a decade can be so different from beginning to end.
That's right. Yeah, no street sweeper for Lloyd Dobler.
Oh, that's good. Even though Lloyd Dobler of everyone, being that he has nothing, no college acceptance, no nothing. He should become a street sweeper.
Well, no, but Brian, he's going to be a kickboxer.
That is true, because it is the sport of the future.
It is the sport of the future.
So he calls her after graduation. You know, you find out this is where you find out why his parents weren't there, because they're in Germany, and, you know, he talked to them, and his sister was at the hospital with her son because he was sick. So, it's almost to the point where he's had to grow up very fast.
Yeah.
And once again, Lloyd grew up fast and is able to deal with disappointment, where Diane is very sheltered and hasn't had to have any adversity. And that's another thing that it sort of sets up as well. And then Lloyd finally gets the courage to call Diane and ask her on a date, which is a big deal for him.
Yeah, I love this scene where he convinces, this is right after graduation, he convinces Corey to take a picture of him with Diane. And he just like walks by her in the background for her to snap a picture.
The very first one of the first photo bombs in film.
For sure. I thought that was great. And there's a lot of really nice little, you know, we talk a lot about how like so much of world building is in the nuances and the subtleties of characters. And this movie is full of that stuff, especially early on. From even, we talked about how she's being driven to graduation by her dad and he's driving himself. But even the fact that her dad's in a suit and tie and Lloyd is having to make his tape player work by shoving cardboard in there. Like there are a lot of these little things that they do early on to show you that these two people are from very different worlds.
Absolutely.
And then to get to, you know, she finally agrees to go out with him to this party.
After some convincing.
Yeah.
But yes.
She finally does, and so he picks her up, and he has these really awkward exchanges with her father.
But
times.
But what's really cool is that he's like super honest. He's like, just so you know, she'll be totally safe with me. I'm an athlete, so I don't drink much.
Uh-huh.
But
he's like, is it okay that your daughter is going to be with me for the next 7 to 8 hours?
And her dad is like, wait, what? But even still, how many guys like go to meet the girl they're dating's parents for the first time like that?
Oh, right,
and is willing to be uncomfortable to do it. That actually just goes to show sort of his early devotion to her.
Yeah, he's smitten with her from the jump, really. And the setup for this movie is pretty classic stuff.
Yeah, this is the girl you cannot have. She's the Great White Buffalo.
Right, Great White Buffalo. I'm, by the way, working on a theory where all of John Cusack's characters belong in a John Cusack multiverse.
Oh, well, they are. Basically, all of his characters are essentially the same guy, just with different names and different paths.
They're like shadows of each other, you know?
Yeah. Well, this is John Cusack from Earth 616.
Right, yeah, exactly.
Martin Blank is John Cusack in Earth 665. 2012 John Cusack is from Earth 666.
Absolutely, that's the one. Yeah. We missed one of the big sort of like conflicts here because it happens before they go to the party.
Yeah.
And that is where Diane discovers and learns that she has received the Reed Fellowship.
Yes.
That will take her to England.
Yeah. And that's a big deal because this is like, you don't just, for those of you who don't know, and I'm sure you guys do because our audience is highly intelligent.
I agree with that.
Great people, great audience, and obviously they're super intelligent because they listen to us.
Yeah, and they've somehow managed to keep up with all of our rambling.
Absolutely. But to get an academic fellowship is not easy.
No.
And to get an academic fellowship overseas is a big effing deal.
Right. And so now they're not just like working on like the summer timeline. They're working on absolute borrowed time here because she leaves in 2 months.
Right. And now the only thing that bothers me is when they talk about the timeline, they say 16 weeks. Well, I pulled the fingers out, Shane.
Mm-hmm.
16 weeks is about 4 months.
Yeah.
So unless they graduated in May, late May. Yeah. You know what? And Sharon is confirming with me that most high school graduations are in late May. So yeah, that does about make sense. It would be late May, but also wherever she's going could start later in the fall. Because I don't know what the England school system is like. But the fact that she did get a fellowship overseas in England is a big deal.
Right. Now, you want to know the part of the timeline that stuck out to me.
I'm sorry?
Here's the part of the timeline that stuck out to me.
Okay.
So they graduate, right?
Mm-hmm.
That afternoon, Lloyd gets the nerve to call her, right?
Right.
So in between graduation and Lloyd calling her, they find out that she got the Reed scholarship, right? The Reed fellowship.
Correct.
Lloyd, when he calls her, says, "Congratulations on your fellowship. I saw it in the paper." How did the paper have it in time to print it in that day's edition if they just found out about it that day?
I'm pretty sure. Well, here's what I'm thinking. I'm of two minds of this.
Yeah.
One, it's the day after graduation.
Okay. I can get on board with that.
Or the newspaper, because it seems like they're in a small suburb of Seattle.
Yeah.
So maybe they, being, the newspaper outlet there, got in touch with these individuals because, they have, because you have this super genius and,
I mean, you definitely want to print it, but this isn't like I can't buy that the newspaper is going to know before the family.
Right. That's what I'm thinking. It's probably the next day.
It's probably the next day, but it all felt like the same day.
It really did. And that if I have
because it was the graduation party was that night. So the implication was that it was the day of graduation that all of this happened.
All right. So then maybe what it is, bear with me here. Graduation was, say, noonish.
Uh-huh.
They found out maybe about 2:30, 3 o'clock.
Yeah.
And it gets printed in the evening edition.
Maybe they have an evening edition. There you go. Yeah. I'm on board with that. Okay, I can buy that.
And then he just happens to, look at the evening paper because he's trying to muster up the courage.
Right.
And there we go.
This scene where he finally does get to talk to her on the phone brings me to one of the things that I've noticed about John Cusack through our Summer of Cusack, and that is his mannerisms of talking on the phone are always the same. The slamming the phone down on the table whenever he's like emphatic, the like curving the cord around his head and holding it between his shoulder. Like the guy that was on the phone in this movie was Rob Gordon.
Yeah. Oh my God, yes.
His mannerisms are exactly the same. Also, the other thing while I've got it on my mind, is it a John Cusack movie if John Cusack isn't in the rain at some point?
I think that every John Cusack movie, I think it's in his contract that he has to be in the rain.
He has to be in the rain during a sad moment.
Yeah, well, see, what I want to know is, does John Cusack ever see the rain?
I want to know.
Have you ever seen the rain? Well, I'm John Cusack. I'm always in the rain.
Yeah.
Maybe John Cusack is a distant relation of Poseidon.
Maybe. Because it definitely seems to always rain when he's upset.
I'm serious. As soon as he said, it's just like, oh crap! Get your umbrellas. John Cusack's having an emotional moment again. Every time a hurricane hits Florida, John Cusack has shed a tear.
Right. So they finally get to this graduation night party, and the really smart thing, and you mentioned this, is they use this party to establish these two leads so well, and they do that by getting them to the party together and then splitting them up.
Right. It's like they never get a chance to be together. And what's cool is they have the Keymaster system, and of course, the host of this party is the great Eric Stoltz, aka original Marty McFly.
Yeah.
AKA Rocky Dennis, AKA what was the hell was his name in Pulp Fiction?
Oh God.
Was it Vince? No, not Vince. It was Vincent. Lance from Pulp Fiction. And as soon as Lloyd shows up, Lloyd Dobler, you are the Keymaster. And it's like, wait, what the hell? He's Vince. I thought his name was Lloyd Dobler. Why is it Vince Clortho? But no, and it's actually a really cool idea where he's in charge of staying sober and taking all the keys of everyone at the party so no one drives drunk. I think that's a brilliant idea. I actually told my son, when you go to high school, there has to be a Keymaster rule. And then I thought for a second. I said, no, don't go to any parties where there's drinking.
Not in high school.
As your father, I forbid it.
Not in high school.
Yeah, and definitely don't be driving. You are not allowed to do that. Not in high school. And if you're gonna be drunk in college, I can't stop you, but you better be drinking and walking and be the Keymaster.
All very good advice for sure. And so they go their separate ways. We learn more about Corey. We meet Joe, who's a real piece of work.
Joe. Oh my God. Joe is such a douchebag.
Yeah.
He is really just a big bag of douche in a canoe.
Yeah, he is a douche.
And not just any kind of canoe. It's the kind of canoe that if you were Canadian, it would turn into a kayak and a bear would just destroy it because you are an annoying person.
Yeah, because so what happens is that Joe has this other girlfriend, and he ends up trying to get back together with Corey. And the way that he goes about it is he's like, well, this other girl is about to go to college, and she's going to be gone, and like we could be back together. And that's sort of the moment that Corey needed to get over him, I think.
Yeah.
To see what a piece of shit he really was.
Right. And you know what? I think that girls everywhere, when they watch this movie, for one, you're not seeing any damsels in distress.
No.
You're actually seeing people that are going through their problems. And if it is a problem that is hard for them to handle, they deal with it, but they don't go anyone in distress. And no one is a savior.
Right.
They are positive support. And this movie is way ahead of its time for that.
Yeah.
And she really looked at him and was like, I love you, but we're done.
Yeah. What's so great about that is I feel like, and I think this is something that a lot of people can probably relate to, is we've all sort of had that relationship where the other person did us dirty, right?
Yeah.
And we get hung up on that, and we get hung up on that person. And so many times I think we just want the opportunity to tell them no. Like we want because that's a power thing, right? And when they do you dirty, like Joe does Corey dirty, he takes her power away. But then when he comes back to her and asks for a second chance, he gives her the power back. And there's something so empowering to be able to tell that person to fuck off.
Right. Let me tell you a story, Shane.
Do it, man. I love story time.
All right. Talk about taking back power.
Yeah.
As you know, Sharon and I are going to be exchanging nuptials in April.
At a costumed wedding.
Yes, absolutely. Well, there was
I have my costume figured out, by the way.
Oh yeah? Who are you going to be, or is it going to be a surprise?
I mean, I don't know. Should I tell? Who are you going to be?
I'm going to be Luke Cage.
Okay, that works. So I think, and this is just like very early planning, right?
Yeah.
But I think I'm going to rent a gold tuxedo and paint my body purple and be Thanos.
Oh, snap. Shane is going to wear a purple suit and paint himself gold. He's going to be Thanos.
Backwards. A gold tuxedo.
He's going to wear a gold tuxedo and paint himself purple and be Thanos. And you know what? You got the seal of approval from Sharon for that.
And I was like, I told Michelle, I said, man, if this thing is all a prank just to get me to dress up, the joke's kind of on him, because now there's going to be this purple motherfucker in the back of all his pictures.
I love it. Well, who's Michelle going to be?
Michelle is looking at being Black Widow or Scarlet Witch.
Oh, that's awesome. Michelle's either going to be Scarlet Witch or Black Widow. Well, Jason's going to be... We actually bought Jason Lavelle's turban.
Oh, nice.
So he may not paint himself blue, but he's going to be the genie, goddammit.
I like it.
So, anywho, there was an individual at Sharon's job who this individual and their significant other, their spouse, actually has a catering business. So we go to them. Actually, they were the first ones we went to because I'm all about, patronizing, black businesses.
Yeah.
And I'm especially all about patronizing someone that we know. So we went to them and they told us all the right things. They had all these plans and we were so excited. Well, we were told by them, give us a week, maybe 2 weeks. We will have a quote. Shane, that was back in early June.
Yeah. Let me do the math really quick because that feels like it's been at least 9 weeks.
Yeah, 9.5 weeks. I was like, see what I did there?
Yeah.
Back to the movie thing.
I like it.
So we've gotten no quote at all. And they have essentially ignored Sharon, except to give her some BS excuse on why we got no quote.
I mean, how hard is it to just look at an order and say, this is how much it's going to cost?
Yeah. And of course and so to me, that tells me they don't want my business.
Yeah.
Now,
I mean, that's what it would say to me too.
So today I saw this individual for the first time since that day because I'm still on vacation with my son, son, but Sharon still has to work. So I drop her off at work, and then I'm going to take my son to the workout area in the basement of Sharon's job because, I want to work with him with some of his martial arts stuff.
Yeah.
Well, the individual is right there. And, they're being like, their normal self, smiling, blah, 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 blah. And I'm instantly annoyed because it's like, seriously, like, how unprofessional are you?
Right.
But then the individual tells me that I cannot take my son into the exercise area because he's too young. And I decide, and I explain, well, he's not going to be lifting weights because, well, A, he's 10. I'm not going to have him lift weights. We're just going to be where the punching bags are. And I'm told, no, he's too young. He's not allowed. And I'm just like, you know what? So I take my son and I go to walk away. And I just turn my back. Because keep in mind, I already have a negative mindset toward this person.
Yeah.
And then they go, well, I might be able to get you special consideration. And I just said, don't even bother. Yeah. And I walk out. And then I had to have the heartbreak of my son crying because he wanted to exercise with me.
Yeah.
So there's a big part of me, and this actually does have a point, and I'm tying it into Corey and Joe, is that I feel as though this individual took our power of choice away for what's supposed to be the special day that we want to spend with our loved ones.
Right.
So I am excited for this individual who supposedly owns all these businesses and blah, 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 to try to come to Sharon and say, oh, hey, by the way, here's this quote. And I already told her, don't be nice about it. Tell this person, because it took you this long to get to us, you no longer have our trust for this. I want us to have to be able to take back our power and say, no, we don't need you.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that you need to, honestly. I mean,
but see,
they've sort of, right. Yeah. And you should already have another quote, honestly, by the time they come, because these people have essentially put your plans on pause for 9 weeks. Like because you're waiting on them, you're not moving forward in another direction, Right.
And then now we're to the point now where we're finding these other people who I'm not really excited about.
Yeah.
One of them, a couple of them have actually given Sharon sort of an attitude when we asked about a tasting. It's like, I ain't just taking your food just because you say it's good.
Yeah. I'll make you guys some bologna sandwiches if you want that.
Hey, Shane's going to make us bologna sandwiches, so we're good.
I'll even fry it up, and I'll even cut the little slits in it so it curls up real good.
Fry them up, cut some slits. Well, see, you're getting a chuckle. I get yelled at when I use the term potluck. Every time I say potluck, her eyes open and then they narrow and then she looks at me like I will kill you.
Oh man.
So the whole point is that, Corey taking back her power from Joe was such a cheer-worthy moment.
Yeah.
And I want that.
Yeah. I can't wait to hear about it when it happens because I feel like it's coming.
Well, I'm gonna tell you all about it. I'm gonna paint the picture for you.
I like it.
I'm even gonna use oil painting.
I like it. I'll put it on my wall.
Woohoo! So
at the end of the party.
Oh, and of course, Jeremy Piven throws himself into Lloyd 2 different times.
Yes.
Like he's going to assault him, and then he's like, "Give me my keys." "Hey, man, I don't want anything to happen to you. Just go to sleep." "I love you, man." And then he passes out.
I wrote down, and this is not Jeremy Piven's character, but the guy that they end up taking home, Mike Cameron.
Man, that guy.
I wrote his name down with an exclamation point because he's so funny to me.
He really is. Oh my goodness. Kudos to Jason Gould, the actor that plays Mike Cameron.
This guy, and you only see him 3 times. There's one at the beginning of the party where he's asking Lloyd like how he got Diane to even go out with him.
He was like, "I'm Lloyd."
He's like, "I'm Lloyd Dobler." And the guy's like, "Man, he's like, that makes me feel really good because, it gives me hope."
Yeah. And then he
freaks out in the bathroom.
And then
passes out. And then they wake him up and they take him home, but he's so hammered. And because he was the key master, Lloyd has to drive him home. So he's in the back seat. Lloyd and Diane are up front, and they're driving around the city because this guy doesn't even know where he lives. He's so hammered.
Which is absolutely hilarious because it's like, Lloyd wanted to finally have time with her and talk to her. But the cool thing is that this once again just shows us and in turn Diane how dedicated Lloyd is.
Yeah.
But because seriously, how many people are actually going to do that?
Well, and this guy, by all accounts, does not seem to be a very good friend of Lloyd's. Like, it's just a guy at a party. Yeah.
Yeah, he's just some dude. But what really makes me laugh is when he was like, "Hey, there's my house." And then he gets out and he goes, "Hey, man, we should." And just leave. Yeah. There's you, Mike.
There's also this really great moment whenever they start looking for his house where the radio, like the DJ says, "We're about to start 3 hours of nonstop rock." And then the sun's up and he's like, "Oh my God, that was 3 whole hours of nonstop rock."
And they're really just driving around for 3 hours. And I'm sorry, the mid 80s Chevy Malibu did not get that great a gas mileage. So
they had to stop.
I wonder if Mike actually pitched in for gas money.
I hope so, man.
Because, damn.
Yeah, and so now we're on the other side of the can't hardly wait part of the movie, and now the story can really start in earnest.
Yep. And I think what's really cool, and once again, you see so much of Lloyd, where Diane, after they get some good morning sodas from 7-Eleven, he's like, "Hey, hold on, there's broken glass here." And instead of letting her walk around it, he kicks the glass out of her way.
Yeah.
And then leads her around the spot.
Yeah.
And and if you notice when they're walking together, actually, never mind. I was getting ready to make a point saying that when they were walking together on the sidewalk, she was not on the outside of the sidewalk. She was on the inside. But no, that wasn't the case because he was running up people's stairs like an idiot.
So yeah, and so he drops her off at home. Dad is not really that upset.
Because she did say she'd be home by sunrise.
Yeah. And so all is good there. Now, she asks, so there's this exchange here where she says that she's never been out with anyone as basic as Lloyd.
Which was really I took that as kind of disrespectful.
Yeah, it felt that way to me too. Although I don't know that she meant it that way. I think she meant that that he wasn't
he was normal.
He was just some dude. He didn't come with all of the baggage of wealth and privilege. He was just some guy.
Right. And I think
that was easy. I think what she really meant was easy.
Yeah, and that's the way he took it. He didn't even seem upset or put out by it.
No, but she was worried that he was, but he wasn't.
And she even thought that as well. And when she was talking to her, oh, before I forget, at the party, shout out to another Cheers and Frasier alumnus, BB Newworth, as Lloyd's guidance counselor.
Yeah, who is at this party for some reason.
She actually gave him her keys to go party with the students. But you know what, man? She was looking good back then, man.
Yeah, this chick probably just scoped all these students out for the 4 years they were there, and then went to this party every year to scoop them up.
Yeah, she's like, once you turn 18 and you're not a student, I'm hitting it.
We go in there.
Oh, we're not just going there. We've been there, we've done that, and look at our T-shirt and our condom. Wow, I definitely took it to another level with that.
Yeah, because I'm pretty sure that all of them aren't 18.
Not all of them, but if they're no longer students, she can do whatever she wants.
Well, as long as they're of whatever the age of consent is in Washington State.
You know what? The guidance counselor could have done me at that age. Okay, I was only 10, but you know what? I would have been all about the guidance counselor.
She was cute. Absolutely. That would have been rape, but she was cute.
Yeah, it would have been. I have. But anywho, so now at this point, but Diane also tells Lloyd, I've only got 16 weeks. And he even says, well, I look forward to spending all 16 weeks with you.
Yeah.
And she's like, she doesn't know how to deal with that. She doesn't know how to handle it, but it doesn't freak her out or anything. He was being very presumptuous. I think
that Lloyd's greatest strength and weakness, perhaps, is how blunt he is with everything.
Yeah, he just, once he feels comfortable.
Yeah, he's not playing a game. He's just going to let you know about it.
Absolutely. And it's really, really, refreshing in a lot of ways, because with a lot of these characters in these movies back then, all of them were running some sort of a grift.
Yeah.
Not Lloyd.
No, Lloyd is, what you see is what you get.
Absolutely. So,
Lloyd is about honesty. Lloyd is about chicks. Lloyd is about kickboxing. That's really it.
Yes, he is. Because it is the sport of the future.
And Lloyd is about Chevy Malibu. Those are the four things.
Dude, Lloyd's Chevy Malibu was on point, though, man.
It was.
And
it was.
So what we end up seeing as time goes on and they're spending this time together is Lloyd is, he totally bombs the family dinner.
Yeah, actually, I want to play a clip from the family dinner.
Okay.
I want to play the section where Diane's father asks Lloyd what his plans are. Okay. So let's listen to that real quick.
All right.
So, Lloyd, you graduated Lakewood, right?
Yes, sir.
What are you going to do now?
Now, Lloyd, what are your plans for the future? Spend as much time possible with Diane before she leaves?
Seriously, Lloyd.
I'm totally and completely serious.
No, really?
You mean my career? I don't know. I've thought about this quite a bit, sir, and I would have to say, considering what's waiting out there for me, I don't want to sell anything, buy anything, or process anything as a career. I don't want to sell anything bought or processed, or buy anything sold or processed, or process anything sold, bought, or processed, or repair anything sold, bought, or processed. As a career, I don't want to do that. So my father's in the Army. He wants me to join, but I can't work for that corporation. So what I've been doing lately is kickboxing, which is a new sport, but I think it's got a good future. As far as career longevity, I don't really know, because, you can't really tell. If you're 8-6 as a fighter, it's no good. You have to be great, but I can't really tell if I'm great until I've had a couple of pro fights. But I haven't been knocked down yet. I don't know, I can't figure it all out tonight, so I'm just gonna hang with your daughter.
All right, yeah, and so that sort of speaks to your earlier point that he has no idea what he wants to do. He just wants to spend time with her.
Right, and I think that's really, really cool. I mean, it's cool and it's sad all at the same time. Because it's like, you see how devoted he is to her. But it's like, you've got nothing else.
Well, we also see here a pretty common theme in this particular time period and into the 90s is the idea that the Army will save you from everything. because he does mention that his father was an Army guy and that he wants him to join. And then later we get him seeing that commercial for the Army. And so the Army is also kind of like how it was in Boys in the Hood, but to a lesser degree, kind of in the background as the last resort, you know?
Right. Yeah. And of course, even when anyone mentions the military, and once again, you really ran into this in, the pre 9/11 America, post-Vietnam era, being in the military was kind of looked down upon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
even
especially
people that went career.
Right. But especially if you were going into the Army, right? Like there was something about that particular branch that was, I don't know that it was looked down on, but it was definitely seen as lesser than the other branches.
Right. Yeah, because the Air Force is always looked at as the upper echelon.
Right.
And then the Marine Corps, you don't want to mess with the Marines.
Yeah.
And then the Navy, the Navy got made fun of because of, the village people.
Right.
But then, the Army, it was just like, going to the Army, huh?
Yeah, it's like that's it feels like the perception was you did that if you couldn't do anything else.
Right. So that's the best you can do.
Yeah, and especially when he says that to Diane's father, who, as we know, is a man who comes from great privilege. You can look at his house. We'll find out a little bit more about where some of these things come from.
His $9,000 jukebox.
Jukebox, yeah.
And Diane's brand new car that she's the only one that got one.
Yeah. So he and it's actually at this dinner that we get the knock on the door.
Yeah, and we find out that Jim is now being investigated by the IRS because they're saying that his taxes were not, over the last 3 years, were not up to snuff.
Yeah, and we ultimately find out that he's stealing money from the people at his nursing home.
Yeah, and you want to talk about a blow to this young woman's world. To the point where she actually goes to her mother.
Yeah.
And tries to get her to just say something nice as a character witness for her father. But
yeah, and this is ultimately what drives her from Lloyd.
This whole situation, absolutely.
Yeah, there is one more moment with them that we have to talk about before we get too far away from it.
Well, and the one part that leads up to that is when her father was supposed to teach her how to drive stick, the manual transmission.
Yep.
Now, for y'all out there who haven't even seen a stick shift car, driving a stick shift is way more difficult than driving an automatic.
For sure.
When you get the automatic, you just put it into drive and you go.
That's it.
A stick shift, once you got to put your car into first to ease into second. If you want to go up hills, you need to go from first or second. You got to hit the 3 to 4. You got to pop the clutch to be able to shift. And if you don't do it right, you destroy your transmission.
Absolutely.
So the fact that Lloyd is teaching her how to drive the stick shift, and she actually becomes quite proficient because of his teachings. And this actually, I think, brings them closer together because, this was something that her dad was supposed to do.
And we get a really nice 80s montage of them learning to drive and then having their first kiss. And, you sort of get those early days of the relationship there.
Right. And it's like how he's into it and she's still not so sure. But then she gives in because she wants it too.
Yeah.
And then that leads them to their first time together.
Right. It's that Lloyd is a feeler, right? Like he is an emotional guy and she is the pragmatist. And that's one of the things that makes this movie so interesting is that the dynamic is completely reversed. He's the one that thinks with his heart and she's the one that thinks with her brain.
Right, exactly. And the thing is that even when she's being the thinker, she isn't cold. She's awkward, but she's not cold. And once again, there's that trope that is thrown away. And it's that a sort of a logical person, a logic-minded individual doesn't always have to be this cold, calculating robot.
Absolutely.
It's just like she's just awkward.
Yeah, and that brings us to, as you said, their first time, which happens in the back seat. And on the radio, you hear the smooth tune, Peter Gabriel.
Peter Gabriel.
In your eyes. Yeah.
You know, every time I hear Peter Gabriel, though, and I hear the name Peter Gabriel, it takes me to the movie Rockstar, when Jason Bonham is flipping out in the hotel room, and Mark Wahlberg goes, "What's going on?" And the one guy goes, "He just found out his wife's run off with Peter Gabriel." And he's flipping out and throws the TV out the window.
Oh man, I haven't seen that in a hot minute.
Oh, I just learned how to play "We All Die Young" from that movie.
Nice.
I'm a little disappointed because if Jeff Pilson played the bass in that song, why is it so damn basic?
Yeah. I mean, sometimes a bass line is simple, just like a drum line. If as a bassist, as a percussionist, because a bass is part of the percussion in a lot of ways. Right. Your whole goal there is to just hold rhythm. So there are some bass lines that are ridiculous and complicated, but
Geddy Lee, everything either one of those two have played.
Yeah, but at the same time, as a guitarist, all I'm looking for out of my bassist is keep me on time,
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And in that song, it's got a lead guitar and a rhythm guitar. So
yeah. So this is important.
So and you notice another trope is sort of done away with. He's the one that needs to be held, not her.
That is a beautiful moment, man.
It really is, because he's shaking.
Yeah.
And he's trying to play it off. He's trying to be the guy and play it off. And she's like, "Well, why are you shaking? Here, have some." She is actually doing something for him that I don't think anyone
actually. Let's listen to that. Let's listen to that scene, to that moment, because I think that's an excellent moment.
Absolutely.
That's going to get us demonetized on YouTube for sure, but who cares?
Oh, absolutely. We're not putting these episodes on YouTube now anyway. So this is so beautiful. That is because you can even just hear the emotion in their voices.
Yeah, and it sets up the song as important because not only is it during their first time, but she actually calls even more attention to it when she says, "Listen to the song," right?
She's trying to get him under control, because it's he's starting to, and he even says, "I think I feel happy."
Yeah.
And it's and she's just holding him and reaffirming him and trying to keep him safe. And I think this is the first time we truly see Diane emotional.
Right.
I think this is the beginning of emotional Diane.
Yeah.
Where she's been all about academics for so long.
Yep. But soon after this, her father, she reveals to her father that they've done this.
And she was so casual about it. Yeah. And it's and then she's like, "And then I attacked him." She was like, "I decided I wasn't going to." And he's like, "Yeah, my baby's still a virgin." And then I attacked him. And it's oh God, my daughter is a cave woman. She wanted snoo, and she took it.
Death by snoo.
Hey, man, I'll tell you something right now.
There are worse ways to go.
There are worse ways to go. I swear, if I died during some snoo, it's it could be worse. I could have been in a car. I could have been Mel Gibson's wife and sons, and the only thing holding my top and bottom half together is a car.
Oh my God.
I'll take the snoo.
Yeah, snoo over Sign's death. You said Mel Gibson, and I thought we were about to go in a way different direction.
Don't worry, there will be no anti-Semitic rants on this show.
Yeah, right. And so now you might have to help me through this part, because this part was after lunch and I was starting to get a little hazy.
Okay.
But he writes her this letter.
It's real beautiful.
It is real beautiful.
It's very simplistic and it's short, but it says and I was doing this all throughout the movie too, and Sharon can attest. Every time they said, "Well, I don't know what to say," say anything.
Right.
I couldn't help myself.
That's it.
But it comes from the heart, because that's what Lloyd does.
Mm-hmm.
So he writes this letter, he sends it to her, And then he goes, oh, by the way, check your mail tomorrow. No, I got it today. And then now here's the thing. Jim, her father, starts urging her to break up with Lloyd, concentrate on her studies, because he finally lets her in on what's going on, essentially.
Yeah, well, I think that he is worried. So, you know who he reminded me of?
Who's that?
This is such a weird comparison. He reminded me of Vulture from Spider-Man Homecoming.
You know what? I can almost see that.
Because
he's being so buddy-buddy with Lloyd, but at the same token, it's like...
There's that, but there's also the fact that he's doing a really terrible thing for a really noble reason.
Absolutely. And you know what? And as soon as you said the Vulture, I was like, I know where he's going.
Yeah.
But I gotta make a joke first.
Yeah, and that's it. Yeah, because he has been stealing this money. She still doesn't know it at this point.
Yep,
but he's doing it to help her so that when she gets done with school, she has like a nest egg. And so he's doing it to try to take care of her. At least that's what he tells us. Of course, he still does reap the benefits. He is living in the big house. He is playing the $9,000 jukebox. So.
Absolutely. And he's, but I truly do believe him that he's doing all because what's funny, and granted, I am jumping ahead a little bit, but when she's told, is he getting all these things that are cash, the car, the jukebox, just so many different things that it's like, okay, yeah, because he's so emphatic that he isn't doing anything wrong.
Yeah.
That it's like, you know what, maybe he isn't. And then it's like, okay.
Yeah, because she does go, and again, this is a little bit later. She does go to talk to somebody on his behalf.
Yeah, and he's credited. He's credited as IRS boss.
Yeah, and
Philip Baker Hall.
Yeah, and the investigator lists off like tick, tick, tick. Here are 3 things that you can go look for right now that will prove it to you. And
what's bad is, granted, today an IRS investigator wouldn't do that. Right. But you can tell, though, this character, and I sort of made up a backstory for him.
Yeah.
He actually has 4 daughters, and the youngest daughter is her age.
Yeah.
And he has actually contemplated doing what her father has done for his girls. However, he's duty bound. He teaches his daughter. He's bound by the doo-doo. But he's bound by his position.
Yeah.
He's bound by the parenting of his daughters. He's the older, more put together version of Lloyd.
Yeah.
And it's like, you know what? No, because I won't be able to look my daughters in the eye. And here's this guy that had the opportunity to do right, and he didn't. Worse yet, he robbed old people. And it's like, you know what? I would want someone to shoot from the hip with my daughters. And that's why he does it the way he does it.
Yeah, and so while this is going on, and I would watch that movie, by the way, but while this is going on, and before Diane knows that her father is guilty, she is guilted. Yeah, she's essentially guilted into breaking up with Lloyd.
And then is talked into giving him a pen.
That's the most random shit I've ever seen in my life.
That was like the one thing where I'm like, really Mahoney? Really, okay. John Mahoney?
Like that was, I was like, this dude's like a mob boss all of a sudden. He's like, you want to give him a present, give him a pen. Tell him to write you.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, ouch, dude. You are a mean man.
Right.
Like, wow. It's like, hey, is that your heart? You see this pen? Stab, stab, stab,
right,
stab.
Stab.
And she does it.
That's what's so crazy is that she gives him the pen.
Right. She goes, well, I'm sorry. Well, here's a pen. It's like, bitch, you took my virginity and you give me a pen?
Right.
Because if she attacked him, that means she took his virginity.
Yeah, man.
And then he gets a pen as a parting gift. Hey, thanks for playing our game, Lloyd Dobler.
Like he signed up for a new bank account.
If you would have put in an extra $100, you would have gotten the toaster.
Right, exactly. But she breaks up with him in all places. In the Malibu.
Yeah, it's like, dude, really? In the Malibu.
And
where you had your first time.
Yeah. So now we transition into sad John Cusack. So it starts raining.
And he's in the water.
Yeah, he does this really cool. I mean, it's not cool that he's doing it, but it's an interesting plot device where I think he's too embarrassed to talk to Corey, and so he drives around town and records messages for her on like a pocket recorder.
Right, and he doesn't want to talk to his sister. He doesn't, and then he's like, maybe I have too many females in my life. So he tries to go hang out with the guys.
These guys, I want to play this too.
Oh, please do, because this is such a. Are you actually going to do the whole scene?
I don't know that I can break it up if you want me to, but
no,
I love.
Honestly, I would even say the whole scene because the funniest part is the little kid.
The little kid is the best. So we'll start here. We'll break it up into two parts. Here is how the guys greet Lloyd whenever he gets to the gas station.
Okay.
Lloyd, man, no babe is worth it, dude. No. Listen, hang with us, man. We'll teach you Bibles full of shit. Right. Lloyd, man, you can't even trust them, man. Because you know what it's about? They spend your money and they tell their friends everything, man. It's about economics. Valid, they tell them everything.
Man, all you got to do is find a girl that looks just like her, nail her, and then dump her, man. Get her off your mind.
Right. Your only mistake is that you didn't dump her first. Diane Court is a show pony. You need a stallion, my friend. Walk with us and you walk tall.
Walk tall, my man.
Snitches, man.
You can give that kid a combo.
Hey, dude, I better bail.
Later for you, Luke.
Cool, man.
I got a question. You guys know so much about women. How come you're here at like a gas and sip on a Saturday night, completely alone, drinking beers? There's no women anywhere.
By choice, man. That's right, man.
It's a conscious choice.
It's a choice, man. Choosing to be here. I want to be here. I'm choosing it.
Dude, where'd she dump you, man?
No car.
Your car? Oh, man, dished in the mouth.
Oh, haters! It's your castle, man. Man, you never had a chance with a girl like that.
And so that you hear in that clip you hear Joe, you hear Jeremy Piven's character. Was our boy Mike Cameron in that group?
No, I don't think. No, Mike Cameron wasn't involved. We only saw Mike Cameron. No, there's some other dude. Oh, you know what's funny is that the other guy that's there, he's another character actor. I gotta find his name.
And then there's this little kid.
Yeah, then there's just this random ass little kid
who has like the funniest line, but only because he's a kid.
Yeah, the line is only absolutely hilarious because of his age.
And also because he's so random. Because I feel like he's the only one that we haven't seen before somewhere.
Yeah, he just came out of nowhere. And it's like, why the hell? Number one, it's like, why in the hell are you guys hanging out with this kid?
Right.
And it's like, kid, why are you out late at night with these guys?
Yeah, and so they're all talking about how they know all this stuff about girls. And then Lloyd poses the very insightful question, well, if you guys know so much about girls, then why are y'all all drinking alone at a gas station on a Saturday night?
Which is so hilarious because it's like, brrr.
Yeah, and then I want to play this part of the same scene where Joe gets up and pulls him to the side to talk to him.
Yeah.
And it's great because you'll hear Joe and Lloyd talking about who Joe could set Lloyd up with, but in the background you hear Jeremy Piven's character like freestyle rapping about Lloyd.
That's where Jeremy Piven does his best Jape impression.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's listen to that real quick.
Man, you're bringing me down.
Shut up, man. We're going to a kegger, Lloyd. We're going to a kegger, and we'd like you to come, man. We're going to find you a girl. We're going to find you a babe, man. We're going to find you one hot-lit babe. Instantly, promise.
That's right, man.
No.
That's right, man. One hot-lit babe. Right. Instantly, man.
Look, I'm not going to be somebody like Diane Court at a kegger. This girl was different, man. When we go out, we wouldn't even have to go out, you know? We just hang out. The girl made me trust myself, man. Just walking around, I was feeling satisfied. Can you imagine that? And then she cuts me loose. I don't know why. She won't tell me why. Who knows the real reason? Maybe it's because of her father. I don't know. She won't talk to me. Won't look at me.
Come on! Christ, Lloyd, what
Get out of your head, boy! Chill, man.
Come on! He's wigging, man.
He's wigging.
Dude, I don't even feel that way about my car,
He's wigging at home. He's wigging every day.
Wigging every night.
Dude, name a babe, all right? Any babe in Seattle, I'll set you up with.
What to do? Doesn't know what to do.
Diane Court.
What to do?
Dude, I can't do it, buddy.
Lloyd, null and void. Listen to the truth, trying to avoid Lloyd. Thinks thou special, but you took another hole.
That was a mistake.
All right, and man, this is a great scene because Joe's like, "Who can I set you up with? Tell me anybody in Seattle. I'll do it for you right now." And Lloyd says, "All I want is Diane."
And that is so beautiful because it's like, even though she's hurt him, she's destroyed him, he doesn't care.
He doesn't, and he also doesn't know what's happening on her side of things. So
right. And that's probably, and the thing is, it's almost like he's telling himself there's something else. It's like, this isn't my Diane.
Yeah, because she was very different in the car than she had been.
She really was. And you could actually tell she didn't want to break up with him.
Right. And it almost felt like she didn't really break up with him as much as he read it that way.
Right.
And then it just kind of like avalanched out of, like, once the breakup has momentum, you can't really stop it.
Right. As soon as once you push it to that level, that's it. It's going.
Yeah. And the next morning we get the iconic scene
where he's got the boombox high over his head with Peter Gabriel playing
at her window.
Her window.
Brian, do you know what song that almost was?
I don't remember off the top of my head, but I want you to tell me.
That song almost, Cameron Crowe almost went with Fishbone's Question of Life.
Oh, yeah, I saw that. That would not have worked.
No, and he changed it because he thought that Peter Gabriel was more in tune to the aesthetic of the film and the mood he was trying to convey, and I completely agree. Have you listened to that song, Fishbone's Question of Life?
No, I have not, because
I want you to go listen to it real quick, and I'll play just a little clip of it on the show here because I do think it's worth hearing what it could have been.
All right, give me 2 seconds.
Yeah.
I'm going to pull it up on my phone now. What's the name? It's by Fishbone. What's it called
again? It's by Fishbone. It's called Question of Life.
All right, I've got it. I'm going to put it on right now. It would not have worked.
No.
No, not even a little. This would have ruined the whole movie.
Yeah.
I can't even listen to it anymore.
Yeah,
that would have made this song. That would have made this movie a 5-shot movie.
Yeah, what's crazy about it is that. So I think that we need to start a near miss Hall of Fame. Because I think that having Keanu Reeves instead of Will Smith in The Matrix was like a near miss. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And this is absolutely a near miss. If he thought that song would have worked in this movie even for a second, he almost ruined a masterpiece.
I seriously think that if Cameron Crowe would have gone with that, he would not have had a chance to make singles or Jerry.
I don't think so.
So our first two entrants into the near miss Hall of Fame, Fishbone's song and Fishbone and Say Anything, and Will Smith as Neo.
Yes.
And
I can get on board with that.
And I'll tell you something. By the way, the random guy, the one guy that was hanging out with them, Gregory Sporletter.
Mm-hmm. Now at the gas station.
Yeah. He played Calvin Norris in True Blood.
Okay.
He was Mitch Swaley in League of Their Own. You know, the guy that liked Kit Keller, the Kit Keller character.
Uh-huh.
That was the sister of Gina Davis's Dottie Henson. And my favorite role of his, Private Melvin in the Danny DeVito film Renaissance Man.
Love it.
And if you have not seen this movie, you truly should.
Yeah, I have not seen that.
I suggest you watch that.
All right, I will add it to the list.
So the iconic scene comes up, and it is so beautiful. And you see him standing there. You see, and by him, I'm not just playing the pronoun game. You see Lloyd standing there, hopeful. And the best thing about it is that he's not just standing there like a statue with this boombox. He's having to adjust because, well, it's a boombox, and he's holding it over his head. and
just hoping that this thing's gonna work. And in terms of grand gestures, this is totally on par for what a high schooler would be capable of. Like, but also it's so on brand for this character to attach emotional significance to the song that he lost his virginity to, and then try to use that to summon her.
And what's even great, what's really great about it is that it's simple. And it was like how I was explaining to my son earlier, how important music is in any facet of your life.
Absolutely.
Music can bring forth the most happiest of memories and your most saddest of memories.
Yeah.
And to listen to the song that was playing when you lost your virginity, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
But unfortunately for our hero, it doesn't work.
Yeah, and this back and forth that the camera does between him standing there with the boombox and her lying in bed wanting to get up, you can tell she does.
She truly does.
Wants to go to him, but she can't because of all of this other stuff that's going on.
Right. And it's almost like she's trying to protect him from her stuff.
Yeah.
And it's almost like she's hurting him to protect him. And that's pretty noble in and of itself, too. I mean, how many times have you seen in history of people hurting someone to protect them from a bigger hurt that they perceive?
Yeah.
So then the next day, we already talked about this, Diane goes to meet the IRS investigator. He gives her the tips and clues.
I'm sorry, Brian. That's the IRS boss.
Sorry, the IRS boss. And she goes home and she figures out where to look, and she finds all this money. And she finally goes. Now, keep in mind, the IRS boss actually tells her, take the fellowship because it's only going to work out worse for you if you stay. So she finds the cash, and she confronts her dad, man. She rips into him.
Yeah.
And he tries telling her, I stole it for you so you would have independence.
This is that whole vulture moment, right? Like,
it really is. And it's like, honestly, and I'll tell you the God's honest truth. If I thought that it would give my son the best life possible, I would rob a bank in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
I would rob people. I would rob people at gunpoint if it meant that my son would be taken care of. Right. I would do the villainous thing for altruistic reasons.
Well, that's one of the great philosophical quandaries, right? That whole, do you break a law to feed your family? Like, does circumstance negate, social norms or whatever?
Right.
And I think,
is it okay to steal a loaf of bread if you're starving?
I mean, I think it is, yeah. But
I do too.
At the same time, we're not talking about Jean Valjean here. We're talking about a dude who was already doing pretty well for himself.
Yeah, he owned a nursing home. There is now, granted, you're not going to get rich, but you can live a relatively decent life if you're smart with your money.
Yeah, and he was also not going to have to pay for her to go to college.
Because,
even if she didn't get the fellowship, she was valedictorian. She was going to get a full ride somewhere.
Exactly. But it's almost like, I think what it was, and this is me getting into the head of a character, is that his divorce, he probably lost a good bit in that divorce.
That's fair.
And he didn't want his daughter to be sort of, having to depend on somebody.
Yeah.
So I can understand, but where he lost me is that when it's obvious that his daughter had him dead to rights.
Yeah.
And he looked her in the eyes and he lied.
Yeah.
And
I wasn't down with that either.
And I think that's where he lost her too.
Yeah.
Especially, and then he tries to say, well, I took care of them better than their own families. It's like, dude, you're a dick.
Yeah. Yeah, right. Like you stole their money.
You stole from them. That
right. Like okay. that could have helped their families,
Now, so at this point, she leaves and she actually tells her dad she's done with him.
Yeah.
And she goes to where Lloyd is training. Now, interesting side note. Who was, for you, Shane, to see if you were paying attention, who did Lloyd mention repeatedly as the world kickboxing champion?
Oh, God, no, I was not paying attention. I did not notice that.
Don the Dragon Wilson.
Wow.
Who was the lead actor in some of those 90s B-movie karate flicks.
Gotcha.
One series of which was known as Ring of Fire.
Okay. I've heard of that film.
Mm-hmm.
And I should probably not call that a film.
Yeah, it's a B flick. It's a B.
Yeah.
It's
a flick.
It's a flick. And who do you think was playing his sparring partner in that scene?
Oh, was it him?
It was Don the Dragon Wilson.
Excellent.
As his sparring partner.
That is some meta shit right there.
So the foot that knocks his ass out when Diane shows up and gives him a concussion is Don the Dragon Wilson.
Love it. I love it.
It was great. And then, of course, they had to set his nose because Don Wilson broke his nose.
Yep.
And it wouldn't surprise me if Don Wilson actually knocked his ass out.
Right.
So, so now, Diane, goes to him for forgiveness, and he's about to hug her, and he goes, well, wait, did you just come to me because you needed someone or because you needed me?
Mm-hmm.
And she's looking at him, and he's like, you know what? I don't care.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter because she came to him, and I think that is a big deal. And so they're reunited. And then, at this point...
now, this is where I feel like, Brian, I've never seen the end of this movie. Because I don't remember them going to see her father in prison.
No? Not even this time around?
I mean, I remember it from this morning when I watched it, but I don't remember it from when I watched it before.
So, first of all, I think it's kind of funny that the prosecutor and Jim's lawyer are discussing how to handle everything.
And
they're just chilling out talking about it. And what's funny, a lot of people don't seem to realize that's actually how a lot of these cases are handled.
Yeah, like when you're taking a deal, like that shit rarely, I mean, it might go to the courtroom floor, but it's worked out in a room like that.
Exactly. And then they go to the judge, hey, judge, just so you know, we saved a bunch of time. This is what we got. This is
Everybody's
what we're
good.
The judge is like, all right, cool. I ain't got to do nothing.
Right.
So
he's going to serve 9 months, I think. Right?
9 months in prison and a fine.
Hard time.
Oh, yeah. And he's in the cushy, 4-star resort prison.
Oh, for sure.
And so at this point, Jim and Lloyd have one of their most real discussions. But Lloyd is still 100% polite.
Yep.
He is treating Jim with the utmost respect because that is the father of the woman he loves.
Yep.
Jim is sort of being like the biggest dick.
Yeah, that he has been so far, at least. And because he knows his big plan to help his daughter didn't work out, and now the kid who, in all, there's a very good chance that if things had gone a different way, the Lloyd Dobler experiment would have lasted for 4 weeks, and then she would have gone to England, and everything would have been fine.
Exactly.
But because the way things went down, now Lloyd has become like the stabilizing presence in her life, and he finds out that Lloyd is going to go to England with her, and that the Lloyd Dobler experiment is going to still rage on across the pond.
And it's now the Lloyd Dobler experience.
That's right.
And at this point,
if we ever start a band, can we call it the Lloyd Dobler experience?
I would be all for. I would be disappointed if we didn't.
Right. Yes.
So at this point, he tells Jim, hey, she wrote you a letter. She doesn't really want to see you. He starts reading. He goes, yeah, I know this part. Skip to the end.
Yeah. Well, and he says, because the end of it is better, right? She says, I still love you or whatever like that. And then he gets to the end and it's like, it's just her name. And he goes, well, it should feel good knowing that there's a version out there somewhere that says the other thing.
Yeah. And it's almost like that's Lloyd sort of punching Jim in the balls.
Right.
And Diane ends up coming back and she says she can't forgive him but she gives him a hug and says goodbye and gives him the same pen that she had given Lloyd.
That's the best.
And told him to write her in England.
That's the best.
Yeah. And then the next scene is probably the best part for me.
Yeah.
Because Diane, and this is established during the family dinner, Diane has a horrible fear of flying, which I do as well.
Mm-hmm.
And he's there with her. And he's like, you know what? Statistics show that the first 5 minutes, if you make it past the first 5 minutes of the plane ride, you're going to make it. So when you hear that ding for the smoking light, you're good.
Yeah.
And then, they've got music, they've got everything. And he goes, what do you need? She just says, you.
Yep.
And then they're waiting. And she's like, when's it going to happen? Any minute now. And then, boom,
yeah,
the movie ends. And that is such a fitting end for this movie.
Right.
It truly is.
You know how I read that, Brian? I thought it was beautiful too. And that line that you just said, statistics show that if anything's going to go wrong in a flight, it happens in the first 5 minutes. So whenever that light goes off, everything's good.
Yep.
I read that as this movie was the first 5 minutes of their relationship. And the bing indicates that they are now moving into the next part.
Oh, I like that. That is awesome by you. Oh, man, that is great.
And I think that's why they hold on that scene for so long at the end, to indicate like this, everything that we've seen of them up to this point is the rocky takeoff. And now the bang will indicate a new life and a new start and a smoother ride when they get to England.
You know what? And I absolutely agree. And I really, really think that, number one, you're 100% correct. And I really think that, honestly, of all the relationships of all these characters that John Cusack has played, the only one that I would know for sure that the characters would be still together is John Cusack's character and his wife from Hot Tub Time Machine.
Yeah.
Because honestly, but I mean, I'm sorry, the Lloyd and Diane relationship is a much more beautiful relationship.
It is. I mean, they are kids, and so there's still a lot that can go wrong. But it's got to, like, where they're headed next is going to have to be smoother than where they started.
It really is. And I think that, honestly, I wish that there was a sequel to this. I would love to see Lloyd and Diane 30 years later.
Yeah, why are we getting sequels to The Last Starfighter? Like, give me a Say Anything sequel.
I would love to know what happened at this point. Did he ever become a kickboxer? Did he,
at this point, is he like a retired MMA? Like,
I'm serious. Like, did he fight in like the first fights of the UFC?
Maybe
did he fight Ken Shamrock?
You know what he did is he started a gym.
Mm-hmm.
He started a training gym in England.
Oh.
And then when the fellowship was over, they just stayed there.
Yeah, I could see that.
Because they didn't have anybody other than Corey, really, like, now that her dad is, like, dead to her.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't have anybody but Corey, but I could see them getting Corey over there. She could get into, like, The Cure and some of that stuff,
Absolutely. And Constance was so busy dealing with her son, she didn't really have time for her brother.
Right, yeah.
I mean, she would actually flip out on him and say, why can't you just be his uncle instead of being his playmate?
Right, yeah. But yeah, man, I think it's a good movie for sure. It's about that time, Brian. Time to get into some ratings.
Oh, man. Yes, it is. It's time to rate this sucker. It really is. So, So for those of you who don't know the Plotaholics rating system yet, it's very simple. We have our bartender that can sort of, coax it in, coax it into your brain so you know exactly how we do this.
Yeah, let's throw it to bartender Smiley.
The Plotaholics rating system for the movies is a pretty simple system. Basically, they rate movies based on how many shots it takes to get through them. So if you got a good movie and you get through it all the way sober, then it takes 0 shots to get through the movie. And then if you got a really bad movie, then it could take up to 5 shots to get through the whole thing. I think you can try to figure out the middle part yourself. So what can I get you?
All right. And, well, you know what, Brian, like I said, I've seen this movie before, or I thought I had. And maybe I know I've seen this movie before, but I think it was a part of a double feature on a night that I was drinking heavily during the first feature. And so the second feature was fuzzy for me.
So you couldn't really enjoy. And you know what? This was my first time watching it, and it was really awesome to be able to watch this film and, sort of review it while, watching it from a reviewer's perspective. Yeah. And I can't wait to watch this film again just from a fan's perspective.
Yeah, it's a great movie, and it, in spite of like whatever we rate it, it's hard to argue that it isn't a masterpiece in the romantic comedy genre, and that it can't, like, it should be mentioned alongside the other titans of that genre, like When Harry Met Sally.
Absolutely.
And that's always the one that comes to my mind. Is there any other romantic comedy that you think of that's like right up there at the top?
Oh, absolutely. I would say for me, it's Fools Rush In with Matthew Perry and Salma Hayek.
That's a good one.
I would even go with Pretty Woman with
Is that a rom-com? I guess so.
Yeah, it would be a rom-com. Pretty Woman is definitely a rom-com.
But I think if you built the Mount Rushmore of rom-coms, I think Say Anything is on there.
Oh, absolutely. So are we gonna go for a 5-face Mount Rushmore?
Maybe, yeah.
What you want to do?
Yeah,
all right. So my 5 faces of the rom-com genre, in no real order. Say Anything, obviously. Pretty Woman, When Harry Met Sally. Another one with Billy Crystal, Forget Paris.
Oh.
With Billy Crystal and Deborah Winger. And now this is going to be difficult for me because I did say Fools Rush In with Matthew Perry and
yeah, that one is really good, man.
However, I would be absolutely remiss. Well, no, it's actually, you know what? Never mind. I almost painted myself into a corner. I almost said, well, what about Officer and Gentleman? But it's not a romantic comedy. It's a romantic military film.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah. So there you go. Fools Rush In.
Absolutely.
I can get behind that list.
And I mean, honestly, and it's difficult for me to not put Jerry Maguire right there.
Mm-hmm.
I really want to put Jerry Maguire there as well, because Jerry Maguire has everything that deserves to be on that Mount Rushmore. However, Matthew Perry is freaking Matthew Perry.
Yeah.
And nothing is more hilarious to me than the difference of cultures.
Yeah.
So that's the only reason why. Plus, we already have a Cameron Crowe film on the Mount Rushmore.
And, earlier this summer we talked about High Fidelity and how much I love that movie. And that movie, I think, is outside of this genre, or I would make an argument for it.
Absolutely, because High Fidelity isn't really a comedy.
It's a dramedy, is what I would call it.
It's like a dry comedy, where this film, it's a different kind of dry comedy.
When this movie is funny, it's funny.
Absolutely. Where High Fidelity, it's like the humor, if you don't get it, you don't get it.
It's self-deprecating. It's much more I don't know. It's a meaner kind of comedy.
It really is. Even
and not mean to other people, mean to the main character.
Right. I mean, honestly, for the top 5 for our Mount Rushmore, if we were going to give some honorable mentions, High Fidelity and Jerry Maguire would be right there.
Yeah.
Like they're right. Like
you can make the argument for them, but I still believe that High Fidelity. I think High Fidelity is a better film than Say Anything, but I think that Say Anything is a better romantic comedy.
I can get down with that, and I think that maybe the only reason why I would agree that High Fidelity is a better film overall is because of, I guess now it's like we're grown-ups now.
Yeah.
We're grown. But Say Anything, High Fidelity does not have that iconic scene.
It doesn't. And to that end, I think that's okay.
It works for High Fidelity.
Yeah, because most real life stories don't have that iconic scene.
Right.
Most real life stories just kind of hum along the way that High Fidelity does.
Right.
But I think what High Fidelity does for me is it's more introspective and it's more reflective.
Right.
And
I could be down with that.
and Say Anything is a great film. I mean, I've got no problem with that. Let's jump into it, man.
All right, so let's go. Smiley already set us up.
Yeah, what do you think it is? What do you give it, man?
Oh man, see, as I think about this, I'm trying to find something about Say Anything that I didn't like.
Yeah.
And I can't come up with anything I hated. The only thing I hated was Joe. And you're supposed to hate Joe.
Right. So that's good.
Yeah. The thing is, though, I want to find a reason to not give it a 0 shot. I really am. Because I don't want to keep giving 0 shot ratings to movies.
Well, hey, look, man. I mean, it is, you know.
I mean, honestly, and that's exactly where I'm going. It's a 0 shot film. Everything is so well done. I think the only thing that I would probably say is a negative is that what the hell happened to our guidance counselor?
It does feel like she kind of got left on the cutting room floor a little bit.
She really did. So I mean, honestly, and we also didn't really get a lot of, well, who are these relatives of Diane's that we met at this party?
Oh, well, some of them were like people that worked with her father at the nursing home. Like, they weren't, I don't even know that any of them were actual relatives as much as they were like business acquaintances.
Right, but she said family dinner, so that's why I'm taking it.
Yeah, that's fair.
So the family dinner aspect and the guidance counselor are, and I'm gonna use those tiny things, those 2 little things.
Yeah.
To not give this film to not, and Brian Jr. is being adorable right now. That's why I'm laughing, because he's wearing all of my shirt. He's wearing like 3 of my shirts and my Anthrax do-rag. 2 of my shirts and my Anthrax do-rag on his head.
Nice.
Right
well, I give that outfit a 0 shot rating.
Yeah, he's doing it as a mask because he's going to be a superhero.
Nice.
So
I'm sorry. You're what are you doing?
I have it like a helmet/cape. Then when I'm ready to review.
Oh, okay. So for those 2 little things, I'm going to give it a 1 shot rating. Because basically, Sharon suggested I should just give it a half of a shot rating. You know, I get, you know, I'm getting, I want a shot, but I don't want a full shot.
Yeah.
But because of those 2 little things, those 2 halves are going to make 1 whole. So I'm going to give it a 1 shot rating.
I'm going to be sort of in the same neighborhood as you. There were a few moments, and it's usually in interactions between Diane and her father, where the pacing of this thing slows down a little bit. Most of the movie just clips right along. The chemistry between Diane and Lloyd is there. The chemistry between Lloyd and Diane's father is there. The chemistry between all of them and the minor characters are there. But there was something missing in that father-daughter chemistry. That slowed those scenes down a little bit for me while I was watching it. And it wasn't, I don't know that it's worth a whole shot, but probably, I mean, just for the sake of simplicity, I would say that it's also a 1-shotter for me. I want to give it a 0 shot rating because it is, I think, a damn near perfect romantic comedy. But if you zoom out from that and look at it from a filmmaking perspective or a storytelling perspective, there were just a few moments that kind of like where the needle caught on the record just a little bit.
Absolutely. And you know, one of those things for me as well, and this sort of just came to me, is the scene where Jim's credit cards get declined when he tries to buy the luggage.
Yeah.
And he's like awkwardly trying to flirt with the sales lady.
Yeah, this is something that could have been just cut out, and we could have, and saved us 3 or 4 minutes.
Yeah, we did not need a forced romantic wannabe thing. We didn't need that.
Yeah, we already know he's a bad person.
Right.
And we already know that he's in trouble with the IRS. Like that plot point never came back, just like the counselor never came back. So these are 2 things that could easily have been scrapped. Saved us a couple of minutes. And then, like I said, like I feel like just the interactions between Diane and her father just needed to be tightened up a little bit.
Absolutely, I absolutely agree. So
one shot rating, I think, all around on the Plotaholics here, huh?
Absolutely. Great film, very little to complain about, and the little bit that you can complain about, it's minimal.
Yeah, it's a great film, and if you haven't seen it, then I don't know why you just listen to us ramble about it for 2 hours, but
but you should go and you should watch it, and then you should tell us how awesome we are as you leave comments on your various places of listening to us, whether they be on Stitcher, on Spotify, on TuneIn Radio, is it Apple Music now?
Apple Podcasts.
Apple Podcasts, and hopefully coming soon to iHeartRadio.
Oh, that'll be great.
We've been submitted to iHeartRadio. I submitted about 2 weeks ago, I think. Yeah. And it usually takes about 2 weeks to get the information. So as soon as I know, you guys will know. Well, first Shane and I will know, and then you guys will know.
Absolutely. Check us out at www.plotaholics.com. It will link you out to all of our various social media sites. Tune in every Tuesday on YouTube or Facebook or Periscope for Plotaholics Live. Our production values are up, Brian.
Oh, they truly are. I mean, Shane just put a big old nut into a brand new system. That's true. Like now when you watch our live show, his audio and video sync up perfectly.
That's true. And I don't know that you went back and watched any of last night's, but even if you couldn't hear the audio, it still came through on like the videos and stuff. It's still coming through on the other end. So
I was actually planning on doing that tomorrow. Actually, today was kind of a busy day.
Yeah, you should. It's a very good episode.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that now that we're done with our, taking our prospective vacations, we're getting back into the swing of things. And we have a lot coming up on this podcast as well in the coming weeks, where the Summer of Cusack is over, and we're going to have, an episode or so where, we're just going to do what we did before. We're just pick random films.
Our next episode will air, let's see, the next episode is really where we're going to do a lot of announcements.
Right. So this episode you guys should be listening to this August 12th.
Yeah, so the next episode will be out the 26th. That'll be a one-off. It'll be a movie. We've got a couple of things that we're kind of trying to figure out which one we want to do, but we have an idea. But on that episode, we will announce the programming on into the holidays. So
absolutely,
you're going to want to be here for that.
Absolutely, because we have a lot of great stuff in store for you guys. We take this show to heart. We've been doing this show now for coming up on 4 months, and we are all in. We have a 1-year plan. We actually have up to a 5-year plan.
Yeah, man. For
what we're doing for you guys, and eventually, you guys are even going to have the chance to see us. We'll be making appearances in the next, next year or two.
Yeah.
We've got a lot in store for you guys. Absolutely. So,
So make sure you subscribe, notifications, pass us on, share us. Word of mouth is the best.
Absolutely, because we're not at a point to start putting money into advertising yet.
Right.
But give us time.
Yeah, and we'll be there.
Absolutely.
But yeah, man.
And go to plotaholics.com, because you'll be able to catch up on all of our podcasts, our live shows, and read some of our articles. Shane just put up an awesome article that he wrote about the Amazon series, The Boys.
Yeah.
Which is, if you haven't read it yet, you absolutely should. The only reason why I haven't read it yet is because I want to go into the show completely and utterly blind.
Yeah.
And I know that Shane isn't putting tons of spoilers in, but I don't want to know anything about it. I want to look, but guys, read the article.
Especially if you've watched the series. And if you've seen Hobbs and Shaw, check out Brian's most recent article. It went up, at this point, it will have gone up last week. But if you have seen Hobbs and Shaw, or you're thinking about checking it out, give Brian's review a look. And also shop around on the old Plotaholics.com, because there's a fall 2019 TV season is upon us, starting in September, and we have an in-depth look at all the shows that got canceled, all the shows that got renewed, and all of the new series. So all of that is on Plotaholics.com as well.
Absolutely. You know, we're getting it going. It's coming up strong. I've got my son. He's got his shirt as pants and his pants as shirt.
I've done that. I've got my shirt as pants and my pants as shirt as well. So.
Oh, he's doing it like mad right now. That's his way of telling me, Dad, stop with your show and pay attention to me.
Well, we've been doing it for a little while, so it's probably time for me to get back.
It's about time for me to get back to being a dad. So absolutely, guys, check us out on all of your social media. Just Plotaholics, at Plotaholics on Twitter, Facebook, on Instagram. Go to plotaholics.com to get all the information from us, everything that we've got going. You can find us on YouTube. You can find us on pretty much, Stitcher, Apple, everything pretty much. And
wherever you get your podcast, if you're listening to us right now, then wherever you got this, just go back to that place and subscribe.
Absolutely. Just get her done. And hopefully we'll be coming to you soon on iHeartRadio. That'll be the big boom right there. So hope you enjoyed this episode.
Absolutely. Hey, man, for the Plotaholics, I'm Shane Wilson.
And I'm Brian Tan.
And we will talk to you again real soon.
Take care.
Take a trip with us to Nilbog. Just promise not to drink the goo.
Oh my God!
If you get sucked into the Matrix, we will sing the phone for you.
Do you believe in fate?
Sometimes the end game is the perfect place to start.
We're in the end game now.
And other times you want to pretend the prequels were never a real thing. Let's just pod race to the end.
It's working!
Every movie has a plot hole, and every hole gets filled somehow. Whiskey, wine, or blue milk. Just don't cut me off right now. We're the Plotaholics, a breakfast club or two. We are the Plotaholics, ripping plots apart for you. Shane and Brian are an island, two real-life misfit toys, wanting to be a RoboCop.
Thank you for your cooperation.
Settling for Black Circle boys, and just like Dr. Hammond, extracting amber from wood.
And later there's running and screaming.
A little too busy asking if we could, and never asking if we should. But every movie has a plot hole, and every hole gets filled somehow with whiskey, wine, or blue milk. Just don't cut me off right now. We're the Plotaholics, a breakfast club of two. We're the Plotaholics, ripping plots apart for you.
Yeah, well, that's just like your opinion, man.